Listen. The question of the day is, have you been listening? Oh, you say you've all been listening?
Nobody wants to tell the truth.
What's going on? Episode 6, building your taste. So why is it important to build your taste? It is my philosophy that if you listen to good music, you'll make good music. Because if you listen to good music, you know what good music is. So when you go down to sit to make music, you'll know what's good and not good. And that doesn't mean you'll make something good every time. That means you'll know what's good and what's not good. So to me, music is not objective to a point. I believe that there's a universally accepted quality of art that is like a threshold. And once you're beyond that threshold, that's when your personal preference and style and all that come into play. And that's when music becomes objective again. We can all agree that Vanilla Ice isn't as good of a rapper as Kendrick Lamar. And even if there's somebody out there who might say the opposite, I would say that it's a universally accepted notion that Vanilla Ice is not as good as Kendrick Lamar. So with that being said, there is quality that we can outright judge and decipher who's good, who's great, and who's legendary. But in between, I think good and bad is the easiest one to say, all right, they're not as good as them. But when it comes to top tier artists, a lot of it becomes what you prefer. When you listen objectively, you build your own taste, which then helps you to stand out, which is next week's topic. But you also become able to decipher good from bad, which helps you as a producer or an artist. And as a producer, you should know what good music sounds like. Now, maybe from your head to execution, maybe it gets lost or whatever, but you should know when you hear it, that is good music. Objectivity. You have to be able to separate hype from substance, and you have to control your own fandom. There are artists that everyone can say make great music more often than not, but even with that said, they still make bad music every now and again. So being able to separate good from bad, and even with your favorite artist, being able to say, hey, this person made a bad song. Drake makes bad songs. Prince and Michael Jackson made bad songs. Your favorite artist makes bad songs. Being able to separate your personal preference from industry or artistic standards is important. Music is emotional, however, analyzing it isn't all emotion. It's important to be objective so you don't have the same bad tendencies as your favorite artist. Like, that's the whole point of this show, and that's the whole point of listening. You're learning through listening. So if you can't be objective and say what's good and bad, you're listening to everything and you're soaking in the good and the bad. So you might have the same bad tendencies as your favorite artist. When, if you're objective, you could take all the or most of the good from your favorite artist, combine it with other good from other artists, and you will elevate yourself. That's the key to being objective, getting the best you can from artists and being able to grow yourself. When you analyze music to build your taste, you have to set your own criteria. It's like if you watch a lot of sports, it's like the GOAT conversation, greatest of all time. Whether it's Michael Jordan versus LeBron or Messi versus Cristiano Ronaldo, you have to set your criteria and stand on it. Now, your criteria can come from your personal experiences, can come from others' personal experiences, from your observations. It has to come from you. It's your criteria and you have to stand on it. And you really don't want to move your goalposts that much. really you don't want to move them at all. If your argument is solid, not just for argument's sake, but if your criteria is solid for judging music, you'll get what you're looking for out of the music every time. In music, I build my criteria of what's good off of my experiences, what I've listened to, and what I like to hear. But in order to build those experiences, you have to listen. I mean, in order to build your criteria, listening to more and more music is good. It's like the Nation of Islam says to study from the cradle to the grave, meaning that you want to gain knowledge. You want to gain infinite knowledge. Like you can learn something every day of your life. And that's the same with music. Through listening to more and more music, especially with older music like that my parents might like or that is already classics and whatnot, I can listen to that music and say, okay, I see what people are saying. This music is really good. Or I can listen to it and say, well, this music might have just been good in its time. And all that goes to building my criteria. Again, it's your personal experiences, the music that you've listened to, which is gonna build your personal preferences. Another example is in music. I find that it's rare that you have an artist that can put together picking beats, because the artist has to say, or somebody in the artist's team has to say, I like this beat, or I like the music, or I don't like the music. The artist has to show musicianship through his melodies, harmonies, and all of that. The lyrical content of the artist has to be decent, and lyricism is, that's a whole nother debate, but lyricism and the artist's originality and their influence, all of that to me factors into what makes a great artist. And that's why to me, Andre 3000 is easily one of the greatest artists of all time, because he has great music. He picks great music to rap or sing over. His musicianship, his melodies when he sings, or even his cadence when he raps is top tier. His lyricism is top tier. His influence is top tier. If you don't know, The Love Below, the album by Andre 3000, is inspiration for 808s and Heartbreaks, and 808s and Heartbreaks is influential for everything else. So that is the influence in his originality. There is no artist that sounds like Andre 3000. And like I said, standing out, next week we're going to talk about standing out, but originality is a big key. And I feel like any artist who you're considering for greatest of all time is very original, and they stand out through being themselves. In themselves, there's only one Prince, only one Michael Jackson, only one Andre, there's only one Kurt Cobain. Like, the people that we hold the highest, they're all themselves, and they stand out in their own right. So, to build your objectivity, you study music. I think you should study music that everybody can agree is masterful. That's Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Jimi Hendrix, Drake, Kanye, Queen, so on and so on. And then if an artist or band transcends genre or racial divides, check them out. See what's similar between all of your critically acclaimed artists and icons. See what they all have in common, and then study the cult classics and your personal favorites. Then see what stands out to you in your personal favorites, and how in your personal favorites is it similar to the stuff that everybody can agree is great. And when you listen to the things that everybody says is great, if you read reviews or you're listening to suggestions, like what I say, suggestions, do you hear what I am pointing out in the music? With the texture episode, did you hear what the texture underneath the grooves with the movies episode, do you hear how there's an overall setting, an overall presence, an overall energy, and things like that? So if you're listening to things that everybody says is great, do you hear what they're talking about? And when you're listening to things that you consider great or quote classics, what is it that you find great about it? To me, objectivity is built on questions. Like the question I just posed. What do all these great songs have in common? When you're listening to me and what I'm saying, you should be questioning me like, is what he's saying valid? And then you have to prove to yourself that what I'm saying is valid. That's the whole point of the listening. You hear what I say about it, you go to the texture episode and you say, okay, does this texture, is what he's saying first, what do I say, does it exist? Do you hear what I'm saying? And then, did what I point out add to the track the way I say it adds, or does it add something else? Am I wrong? So on and so forth. When you sit down to listen to any artist, to any music, your first question should be, is this good? If you're listening to analyze it, that is. The first question is this good? And then after that, you go into it. Why is it good or why is it not good? Go into the little details and so on and so forth. So that's the end of this episode. As always, listenings in the description. And this week, the listenings are going to be a mix of cult classics and mainstream hits. Again, let me know what I can do better. And thank you for listening.